tonight, by my math, at the Romo Fee-Ho. You get tickets info at rocketmortgagefieldhouse.com. If you're a fan, you probably know who's coming. I don't have a list here in front of me. But for people who go, they'll tell you it's never a bad time. Monday Night Raw here in Cleveland next Monday night. 2 tickets here for you if you're caller 10. Good luck. 216-578-1007 or 800-348-1007.
His first marriage didn't work out. He caught her texting another show.
Well, sounds like he deserved it.
It's Alan Cox.
On 100.7 WMMS.
In Ohio. But the patient population, because it's just medicinal, is pretty flat. So that's why so many people, I mean, obviously growers are kind of the tip of the spear with respect to lobbying to get the legislators' heads out of their asses and go full-on recreational pot. But, yeah, until then, you're probably going to have too much. They grow a lot in Akron. You know, there are companies down there. And the plants in a single room of this particular center, 200 pounds of weed every 2 months. Simply no way to know how much that is each month. But they have tripled their output. But you're going to hit a wall with, especially if it's just medicinal, because some of those people, some of your customers are going to die. You know, if you're using it for pain mitigation, you're not going to be probably a decades-long customer. Ohio has 11 million people in it, and only 170,000 have medical marijuana licenses. See, my understanding was that it was unbelievably easy to get one of those. So even if it's not recreational, I guess I thought there were a hell of a lot more people that have medical cards. Because these days you go to your doctor and you go, ow, and he writes you one.
I don't know if that's true in all parts of Ohio, though. Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, sure. If you're in rural Ohio.
No, but it's state regulation.
Right, but I'm saying your doctor might not prescribe it to you.
I
He might
see.
be like, you can try this,
He's
this,
like,
and this
you can
first.
get some Oxycontin like a real man.
Right, I'm like dead serious.
Like a real man.
They might be so anti-pot like the rest of, I mean, that's the part of the state that's causing the problems anyway. All the small towns with backwards views, they very well could be like, no, we don't do that here.
Yeah, but I mean, and you probably do have a point there. I'm just saying that even in those rural pockets, you do have people that are of the mind that, listen,
good.
how did the Overton window on pot in general decades ago start to open? Because old people started smoking it. People who vote, old people who are in pain started to go, wow, this is great. That's how legalization of pot started to really gain some steam.
Yeah, but there's still a lot of people who are afraid of it. A lot. Or look down on it or think it makes you lazy and you're, going to start living off the government. If you start
Unlike
smoking
alcohol?
weed. Well, yeah. Seriously. Alcohol has
Alcohol
no...
it's a party. People just show up and they bring their surfboards and stuff. I've seen commercials.
Yeah, when they come to a party at Ohio and they bring their surfboard.
Yeah.
Maybe at Squifle Towers pool, Bill.
Oh man, I went
but
swimming.
not at a lot of other.
I'm just trying to force myself to use it because it's been too cold. And Saturday it was 75.
It's not warm enough.
It is not warm enough, and
really,
usually it's heated, and the heater was not working apparently, and I jumped in. And it was a polar plunge.
I was going to say, if it's a heated pool in 70, but even on a 75-degree day, of course, you're on the lakefront, too. So you got the winds whipping up off
it was. I mean, I stayed out there for about an hour with pants, and, we had a good time, but it's still not the, when I'm in the pool, I like it to be hot out.
I want it to be
cold
80 and above is pool weather, water weather.
When we were in Chicago, all of my siblings were there, and so my daughter got to play with all of her cousins, and so she was just walking on air the whole time because she doesn't.
Do they treat her different because she's the daughter of a millionaire?
She's not the daughter of a millionaire.
She's the rich uncle's kid.
Mm-hmm.
No,
here comes Nora.
She's not. No. But
our Ohio family.
But she wanted to run around in the sprinkler. And we had brought a suit for her because we figured that my brother was like, hey, I'm probably going to have the So it was warm, but it was like just this side of not sprinkler. Because I think of sprinkler as like 85, 90 degrees. You're running around in the sprinkler. And so she was the only one out there doing it. But man, she was living her best life. She couldn't have cared less if she was the only one. But the sprinklers were on. Because all of her cousins are older. Like she has one cousin who is a year younger than her. All the other ones are considerably older. So they'll hang out with her, and but they're like,
they'll lose interest.
You're not going to play with it. Yeah, so she'll kind of play with her one cousin. But now she's got some, my sister's getting married, so she's got some step cousins now. So that's good. That's always fun.
Well,
when you kind of widen the spectrum there.
That's exactly what it is with Brian's daughter, because Brian has one brother, and they have a 2-year-old. So like that's her only cousin on Brian's side.
Yeah.
And then I think she only has like 1 or 2 on her mom's side too. And then I have 11 nieces and nephews. So when all of our family gets together, she's like elated to be hanging out with 12 kids, But there's the 3 oldest girls are my 11-year-old niece, then 10-year-old twins. And even Blake being 7, they're like the 10 and 11-year-olds like have their period and are starting to get into boys and their cell phones. And Blake's like, well, I want to play with and I have to explain to her, like, you don't want to play with a 3-year-old, right? Like, that's too small for you. That's kind of the same thing, that you're just not into the same things right now. But
yeah, we didn't have any cousins growing up.
I had a ton.
Because we didn't know my dad's family, and my mom had one sibling, and he had no kids.
Oh, yeah.
So we had no cousins.
There's like a billion.
Mm-hmm. My mom.
There's 7 kids on my dad's side.
That's my mom. She had 8 siblings.
And then everybody had 4 or 5 kids.
Yeah.
So it's just.
I'm glad my kids have cousins. I'm like, that's awesome. When I was growing up, friends of mine were always talking about hanging out with their cousins. I'm like, that looks so fun.
Yeah.
Because they were invariably older, and they, like, oh, my cousin's gonna buy me a pack of smokes or something. That wasn't my thing, but I was like, man, I don't have anybody like that. You make your own fun. I did find something interesting, though. I'm always trying to, because we don't know my dad's side of the family, kind of stops cold when you do the bloodline stuff. My mom's bloodline can go back as far as whatever. But my youngest brother has continued to do deep dives on my mom's side of the family. We did determine unequivocally that we are of Irish descent. Pretty much figured out, but you never really know where to pinpoint it, We're aggressively white. That was all I knew. But we didn't know if it was Irish or Welsh or Scottish or whatever. So there's a little bit, it's mostly Scotch-Irish. But my brother has been doing these deep dives into my mom's side of the family. My dad's side still remains a mystery. But the data and the routes you can take if you're on one of these like ancestry things, if you're going down a path on one side, it'll take you to more and more and more. And my brother showed me this clipping, and I was reading it. I'm like, what am I looking at here? And he had to kind of walk me through it. On my mother's side, my great, great, great grandmother moved from Ireland, County Cork, and ended up in Indianapolis when that city was maybe 30 years old, right? So she was born in 1769. And what I was reading was she had been written up by the very first paper ever in Indianapolis when she was 107.
Nice.
Now, she died at 110. So this is my mom's great-great-grandmother. And I don't know how they ascertained this, but the article said that when she was 107, she was the oldest person in the United States. Now, given the glacial pace of information, then I don't know how they had that information. So there's a couple of grains of salt here. But as I'm reading it, I'm looking at my brother. He goes, this is our great-great-great-grandmother. I'm like, imagine coming from Ireland, and you're probably at that point just happy to be in the United States. And then our great-great-grandfather, her husband, had come here from Scotland, and they just met and lived in Indianapolis. But I'm like, imagine coming here, and you don't settle in New York, or you don't settle in Baltimore, or you go to Indianapolis. The city's barely there, right? I mean, Indianapolis was founded, I think, in like the early 1800s. So she would have been there many years later. But you're like, hey, why don't we just live here? This is pretty cool. How do you end up in Indianapolis from the East Coast in the
Horse and
1800s?
That's where the horse died.
Yeah, that's probably what it is, right?
I'm not even
That's
kidding.
where like people, that's where back in the day, that's where you settled was where, or like winter hit.
Yeah.
And you're like,
this
well,
is it.
yep.
I'm not making it. They're trying to get to
I
the
guess
West
we'll
Coast.
call this Minneapolis.
Was that Gold Rush years? They're trying to get to the West Coast and the horse died in Indianapolis.
Well, that was in the
I guess.
1900s though, but I mean,
But
that
that's when
was,
she was around. Right?
no, she was born in 1769.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So she died in 1879. She lived to be 110.
What was going on in the 1700s in America? Revolutionary War?
There were a lot of things going on, but I was like, I mean, again, when she was born, Indianapolis, I don't even think was a city yet. So it would be many years later, obviously. She got written up when she was 107. But I was like, so I'm telling my brother, I'm like, man, this is, you do all the work and just give me the sweet stuff. Just breadcrumb me with this information because it's amazing. Because my mom, in going through the house, she's still going through the house and cleaning things out of the basement. And she found these really old black and white photos that she had never seen before. And she doesn't know who the people are. But there's writing on the back. Like there's a picture of a really old guy. You know how people used to dress. They used to dress to the nines all the time. Like the 1800s, you know. They're outside and the guy's got a beard and a hat and and he's got like a waistcoat on and the whole bit.
Wait a minute.
suit
Wait a
and all
minute.
that
She
stuff,
was
yeah.
born in 1779?
She was born in 1769.
1769. So she was born during the Revolutionary War.
But in Ireland.
And when did she come here?
That I don't know. I do know because my brother was like, well, she settled in Indianapolis. I'm like, okay, well, I don't even think that was a city until the mid-1800s. So that would have been later, much later in her life. That she ended up.
1821.
So it would have been
She was
much
50.
Yeah, later in her life that she went to Indianapolis. So I don't know where she was before that. Like I know that my dad's dad, because he died when my dad was 15, so obviously we never met him, but like my dad's dad like grew up in the Baltimore area before he moved, and then my dad was born in Mississippi and that whole bit. But these old black and white photos, I'm like, as we're driving to the cemetery to see my dad's gravestone over the weekend, I'm saying to Gwen, I'm like, it's amazing. And it sounds so stupid to say, but it really is when you put your mind to it and think about it. All of the people just in your own family that you'll never know, and they'll never know you, just these generations upon generations of people who you are related to by blood. And there's a photo, and on the back, and just handwritten says, Father in the barn. I'm like, wow. I'm like, that is our, like, great, 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 whatever. Some people, I grew up with people that were really into their families. So they're like, we can trace our family all the way back to, that's easy to do if you got right off the boat.
I was going to say, it makes me sad.
Yeah, there's no black people who can do it.
Well, we only go up.
Very sad.
There's, 4 generations, or no. Yeah, 4 generations. My mom knew.
I can track my family back to the 1500s.
That's what I'm saying.
That's white stuff. Yeah,
I know.
White stuff. That's right. That's why this whole go back to Africa nonsense. Black people are like, I don't know where I'm from,
Yeah.
a-hole.
My mom's grandmother.
You took that from me. Thanks very much.
That's as far back as it goes. My mom's grandmother, and that was like in Mississippi. And then my grandmother from Mississippi moved up here. And then that's how we have roots in Mississippi. And now we're in Ohio. And my dad, he had a brother that passed away, but his father was adopted. And my grandmother on his side was from Italy, straight off the boat. We have family in Pennsylvania somewhere. He's essentially, like, he has no family. My mom's family died off, so it's us. It's like everybody's dead.
You're the last of your line.
All my grandparents are dead. My mom's cousins, we have a ton of cousins. When we were at St. Patrick's Day, as a matter of fact, St. Patrick's Day, when we were at the Clevelander, a guy walked up to me, and I forget his name, but his last name is one of my family's last names. We have many last names. And he was like, hey, yo, I think I'm your cousin. And I said, I could look at him, and I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, he's definitely my cousin. I didn't want to let him know that, but I was like, he looks exactly like the rest of my cousins. And I was
Why
like,
didn't you want to let him know?
'cause I guess
You were
I-
looking for new applicants, or
no, I wanted to see what he knew. And then
you were quizzing him?
Yeah, he threw out one of my cousin's half brothers. I said, ooh, that's a deep dive. I said, there's no way he knew that without being related. He said, I'm your cousin's cousin. He's like, so we are related. I was like, yeah, you are my cousin. And it was just so funny. That's because that happens all the time. We have cousins, half cousins, and then, you know, their dads cheated on their mom with the so-and-so. So we have some of those out there too. So they don't talk to us, but we are related.
Wow, it's wild, isn't it,
It's
though?
so wild. It's like, oh yeah, so we're on bad terms with this family. We are related, but half of their family don't know that we're related. So don't say anything to them if you see them out in public. That's
Hey,
how
just
it
pretend
be.
you're a stranger and you have no blood relatives.
Chances are, if you're in Elyria, Ohio, and you're black, you're probably related to my family somehow.
That's how my grandma's family was down in Canton. There's just a bunch of hillbillies, and each of them had like 15 kids. I remember one time when I was a little kid, we went to a family reunion on my grandma's side down in Canton. And
Did they need them to work the land? Were they farmers?
I have no idea. I think they were just poor. So they just that's what happens when you're a poor person. You have sex and you don't pull out. You're not using a condom. There you go.
More kids,
Got a
more
bunch of
assistance.
kids. Yeah.
Well, if you get assistance, I mean, there's some families that don't, and nobody's living high off the hog if you got 15 kids.
Oh,
I
they
mean,
get assistance.
it's
But there
so
were-
easy to not get pregnant.
I mean, I was a little kid, right? But I remember being at this park, and I'm like, "There's 200 people here." Like, everyone had name tags on, and my dad's like, "Oh, this is your cousin. This is your second cousin. This is your uncle." And I was,
And it means nothing to
I was like,
mean,
"These people are not related to me. I've
Right.
never met them. I've never seen them since then." But it was like my grandma's brother, Ralph. He had a bunch of kids, and then each of his kids had like 4 or 5 kids. So his bloodline alone was like 40 people.
Yeah.
It was insane.
It's a lot to keep track of. Alan, you know when your great-great-grandmother lived then? Yes, I do.
1776!
That's what I was saying. I was like, she was here during the Revolution, and she was here when America was founded. But
Indianapolis was founded in 1821. Somebody said.
I already said that. You don't listen to the show.
Is that what you said, 1821?
Sure did.
Oh, I thought you sorry.
Alan, see me after the show.
1776!
Sorry, I'm doing a couple things over here. Yeah, because like my wife's mom's family is like French Canadian, so they're all from Quebec and all that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. It's pretty wild. So I'm gonna be telling my brother to keep me in the loop.
But the women in your family are old, like historically. You had a grandma who was 103. This grandma was 110.
Here are the 2 things that I've noticed that are consistent in my family. People live a long time, and they marry, the men, marry women much younger than they are. So, nailed it.
Well, then
I'm making my family proud.
You're doing great.
Yep.
that means your mom's got about good 40 years to find another man.
Maybe so. My sister was trolling her, saying that she put her on farmersonly.com. and my brother and I, because I told her, I go, it's become a running joke on the show that, like, you're dating again and whatever. And my brother and I looking at my sister going, farmers only? Where did you get that?
Yeah, they're ready to plow.
Yeah.
Hey!
Yeah. I got a break here. Want to send a text for something, 35192 to get me there. I will have those Gojira and Mastodon tickets for you. A little closer to 5:30. They have set that co-headlining run this summer that'll get them to stop